Or breakfast at Tiffany's, well, or rather a healthier version at McDonald's in Chelmsford in Essex. Well, I say healthier because the hotel I'm staying in offers an all-you-can-eat breakfast, and I just see that as a challenge. Can I cover the cost of the room before they stop serving breakfasts? So McDonald's it is. And while drinking my large cappuccino, I read the comments from my recent videos. And a question occurs to me. Why do the anti-EV viewers feel compelled to try to convince me, a seasoned, experienced EV driver, that I should give it up and buy an ICE car? What drives them? Why are they so dedicated, so passionate? Well, Dave takes it on, tries to understand their reasons and fears. Will we ever succeed? Well, back in my day, way before anyone had heard of the internet, I drove a variety of cars. Some were quite good. I liked my Fiat 124 Sports Coupe, while others were a bit of a disaster. I had a Vauxhall Frontera. Some people raved about the Frontera. I found it heavy and clumsy and noisy and decidedly uncomfortable. I couldn't do long distances in it. But I felt no compulsion to try to educate all my friends and work colleagues, advising them not to buy one. Well, who knows? Maybe they would find one comfortable. So if asked, I'd venture my opinion, but that was it. Likewise with yachts. In the Fleet Air Arm, as officer cadets, we all spent compulsory time on the River Dart, in Devon in a wide variety of boats, and I got to love them. Later in life, I eventually bought one. Well, nothing fancy, it was a really cheap little 20-foot yacht, that's pretty small, that we used for day trips and fishing trips when the weather was good. Well, proper yachts, like 6 berths and above with kitchens and toilets, galleys and heads, were way out of my league. But I felt no jealousy, no desire to stop those who could afford one. I poodle about in the Herrick roads on the River Fal, really enjoyed myself, alongside some of those flashy yachts costing $500,000. But today, the anti-EV brigade seem to harbour a really deep-seated grudge against all things EV, all people EV, and a mission in life to convince everyone else that they are right. And that's so strong in some cases, they will deliberately block EV charger bays with great pride and sense of achievement. What is going on? Why do they do this? Well, if you ask any anti-EV who the CEO of Stellantis is, or Google, or Facebook, they have no idea and no interest, but mention Tesla, and the intense hatred for all things Elon surges to the surface. Talk about EVs and they bombard you with images of children hand-digging cobalt out of a mine in the Democratic Republic of Congo, but then happily dash off to the Apple Store for the latest iPhone or iPad, which uses exactly the same lithium-ion batteries. In fact, this was one of the very first put-downs, where you can't run a proper car on mobile phone and laptop batteries. I believe it was only very recently, I think about a year or so ago, that battery manufacturing for mobile phones was eventually overtaken by EV battery manufacturing. Well, take employment. Tesla employs over 125,000 people in the States alone. Doing my research, I was astounded to discover that General Motors employs about 165,000 people and Ford about 175,000. Wow! Tesla's a major employer in a time of recession, while other companies are laying off staff, closing down factories at a frightening rate. And because they use local suppliers for their EVs, which cuts their shipping costs dramatically, Tesla was recently voted the most American car on sale in the USA, not a Ford or a GM. Both of those have factories in Mexico and Canada, to name just two. And here was another surprise. Of the top 10 most American-made cars, according to Cars.com, Tesla took first, second, third and fourth, the Y, the 3, the X and the S. It was shocking to discover not a single Ford or GM car appeared in that top 12. The rest go to Honda, Toyota and VW. Well, looking a bit deeper into the assertions of the petrol heads who want EVs banned, I notice as an unproven generalisation that they usually proudly drive older cars. Well, to talk about my VW 2003 Golf GTI or my trusty 10-year-old F-150 pickup. There's nothing wrong with this. I've already stated I've never bought a new car myself. Had a number of new cars as company cars, but never bought one. So comparing a 15-year-old ICE car to a brand new EV seems rather silly. A bit like comparing a 15-year-old desktop computer with a top-of-the-range back then Intel Pentium 4 plugged into a CRT screen with comparing with an iPad. They're wildly different, and the vast majority of common software today and the apps we use simply wouldn't run at all on the Intel. Well, recently the price of used EVs have dropped significantly, to the wild approval of the EV haters, as a sign that EVs are about to collapse and disappear, allowing the return of the proper petrol cars. That drop includes obviously the value of my 7-year-old Model S. While it was great a few years ago to see I could have sold it for more than I paid for it, briefly, I see the drop in used EV prices as inevitable. Does anybody buy a new car because it will appreciate in value? Well, I thought the drop was a great event. It means two things. First of all, my wife, who currently drives a petrol car, is getting closer to being able to switch to an EV. And yeah, I know there are plenty available at really quite cheap prices, but her driving requirements are skewed by visiting her ageing mother once or twice a week, and it's a 100-mile round trip each time. And most EVs within her budget offer far less range in the real world, particularly in the winter. She can't stop and charge for now, or she won't. EVs are not always suitable for everyone at present, but for me, the price of a new Tesla, should I decide to buy one, is now cheaper than it was 4 years ago when the Model 3 launched. And the new refresh model is a dramatically different, better car than the older model. Why are the anti-EV viewers so willing to accept any old rubbish thrown at them by the oil giants or clickbaiters trying to exploit them, but reject every argument or point raised by people who have been driving EVs for years quite happily? Surely they should come and talk to us. Well, I think the answer to not knowing about EVs is just one of not knowing the facts and blindly sticking with what they think they know. But their compulsion to try to get us EV drivers to get rid of our cars and go back to an ICE car, that's really baffling. They state they're horrendously expensive and a waste of money. And maybe they are in their eyes. They are dear. But if I can afford one and I choose to buy one, why does it matter to them if I totally waste my money? It is my money to waste. I've certainly wasted huge sums of money over the years on ICE cars. Why do they need to prevent me from wasting my money? Or is it that they see EVs as a real threat to ICE cars? But that brings me back to the many people, like me, never having bought a brand new car. People can, under current legislation, continue buying new ICE cars for at least another 12 years. And those cars, and all the other ICE cars ever made, more than 30 million of them, can be legally driven, bought and sold for as long as they're capable of passing an MOT, or as long as people can afford to keep them going. Well, it could be 20, 25, 30 years, even more in the future. They will probably still be able to buy a 10-year-old VW GTI or equivalent in 20 or 30 years' time. What are they worried about? Well, I'm really pleased to see a general movement is slowly building up, helping people see that an EV is just a car with a different engine and fuel. Massive thank you to Robert Llewellyn, Dan Caesar and Quentin Wilson, a team of many others, and the Fully Charged show for being right at the forefront of this movement. The Just Stop Burning Stuff campaign is a really great movement, not in any way restricted just to cars. I wish it all the success it deserves. If you've not seen it yet, leave a link to it down below. Rome wasn't built in a day, and the transition to EVs specifically and renewable energy for everyone ultimately will take time. I just think we live in a sort of instant society where you can order a cappuccino, have it delivered in a few minutes, piping hot by a person on a bike, or order something from Amazon Prime and have it delivered the same day by a person in an electric van. That instant nature is often applied to everything, and some people love that. For others, it's a step too far, and they cling desperately to the past that they know. They're familiar with it. Well, I'm going to keep working my way away, trying to do my little bit. Well, thanks for listening to my gentle rant. Do not hate the deniers. Do not even wish I could convert them. I do wish they would just open their minds and have a look for themselves, make up their own minds whether an EV is right for them. I hope they see the drop in used EV prices as an opportunity rather than a threat or disaster. Maybe if used EVs get cheap enough, maybe they will think again. But I do ask them, go and have a test drive in an EV. It's totally free. Then get in touch with me. I'm Dave.